Nothing lollygagging here.
Okay.
I'll call this meeting to order.
Do you like it?
This is a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District. Today is December the 17th, 2025. Board directors are present in person, and Director McElroy is on Zoom. Time for community expression. Anyone in the audience, either on Zoom or present, that would like to address the board on a matter which is not on the agenda and for which we can take no action, but would be willing to entertain a relatively brief discussion on the subject of your choice. Is there anybody that has a community expression item? 3, 2, 1. There are none. Okay.
Yeah.
Next item is to consider.
Wait, somebody
Oh.
has somebody.
Yes. Hi, this is Janine. Sorry.
Go ahead, Janine.
Okay, I'm calling. Sorry, get rid of this echo. I'm checking in with you because of an item on the manager's update, and I just wanted to speak very briefly about it.
Well,
It has to do with the garbage situation at the end of Wharf in Brighton, which is the
yeah.
You can just make a public comment, I think.
Oh, okay.
We're not really discussing it.
Oh,
Usually go to
okay.
the update.
All right.
Okay. I can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sure. I just wanted to remind you about your Bolinas Beach committee back from 2008 that dealt with the ban on camping and fires. But at the same time, we dealt with a lot of other things, which was the trash situation, the unsightliness of the area. So anyway, to make a long story short, from that process, which is a long process, we formed a committee, and Jennifer Blackman, probably within a year ago, kind of acknowledged that committee and the ongoing work at Brighton, and said that with the construction of this Brighton Beach seawall, the Coastal Commission would require the Pinkuses to make a large allowance towards public service improvements. And within that, that would be improvement of the garbage collection and situation, improvement of the garden, information, signage, that kind of thing. So apparently this will happen. I've spoken with Randy from the Bolinas Community Center, and we're very interested in having them be the pass-through for this fund and working together to continue improving the beach entrance and public awareness situation. So the garbage unto itself is not just one small thing. And in dealing with the garbage, it's going to be dealing with probably an entirely better situation with more funding. I wanted to bring that up, and I will more formally present some ideas. So I just wanted to remind you of that and bring it up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Janine.
And can I just briefly respond to that, because we talked about it last meeting. Janine, I did present on that, and we're actually working with the planners for the seawall improvement project. And we're working with Randy in coordination around those garbage plans, particularly at Brighton, but also with the Bolinas Community Center around the improvements at Wharf.
This is
Okay,
Wendy.
good.
I can chime in on that issue too if you want. Because we're dealing with the trash at the end of Wharf has been a big deal issue too. And I know that Randy, I know that I've been talking more with Kate lately, and I know that it's in the works that Marin Ecology, or our waste management company, is supposed to be getting involved in it also. So there is stuff happening. It's just taking a long time, but both ends of the beach are being talked about and dealt with somehow.
Thank you. Are there any other community expression items that people want to bring to the board?
Jenny.
Jenny?
bring something to everyone's attention. I've been talking about this at school board meetings too, and actually all the meetings I go to that have our government agencies and have potential for union people, and I would like to encourage everyone to support the nurses push. The nurses union is pushing to get universal health care. And I would like to see all of our agencies, government agencies, public agencies, and unions to get behind that push, because it would save a lot of money on all these budgets. So there would be money for other things, like paying higher wages to our employees and a variety of other things. So that's my comment, and I'll probably be bringing it up a lot because I think it's really important, not only for health issues for people in our state, but also financially for our agencies, because that's a lot of money that goes into coverage, health coverage for our employees.
All right, well, thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
Any other items of community expression? All right. The fourth item under meeting opening is to consider amending the order of items in the agenda. Georgia, do you have any proposed change?
No, I don't.
Okay. And I'm gonna move on to action items. Public hearings, receipts, and notices, there are none. Special reports or updates, action requested. Number 2. Resident Permit Parking Plan Committee, final update, Sherry Hirsch.
Basic,
Oh, sorry, Sherry, I didn't, just for the public who's watching you, do you mind coming closer so you're on camera?
where would you like me to be? I'm not sure.
Maybe just behind Kirsten, if you don't mind, or like right there. Yeah. Sorry, it's not the best.
Or maybe stand. for a
Yeah,
moment.
let me stand.
It won't be.
It's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Well, you
Just come over
submitted.
here.
Yeah.
See, there you
There
are.
you go.
Now I see you.
There you go.
And you reach
Looks
out
like
to
a
me.
There you go.
Yeah,
Right.
that's better. Love it.
Yeah, I
All
worked because I was afraid this was gonna happen. We had December 9th, the committee had its last committee meeting and Kirsten attended. And the bottom line is it was a permit parking plan committee. So the plan has been implemented. There's some follow-up. We sent a report to the board that went over basically what the achievements were and what the challenges were, just to remind everybody what it was like to do these things and how, what we had to go through. And then the other thing, of course, is what we think really needs to be done. And specifically for the permit program, there's some loose ends on the signage for 2 reasons. One is neighbors were not on the same page with where DPW was going to put the signage. And on Wharf Road, the specific problem is that we are waiting for the seawall to change and to be repaired so that we can change the signage to what it's supposed to be about the related to the permit. However, since there were some gaps on Wharf Road in the area where there probably should be signage, and there's gaps on Brighton, we really would like to get those signs up, but it's kind of agreed at the time, optimistically thinking that the seawall would be just around the corner, fixed would be just around the corner, we could just wait. Well, it hasn't been around the corner on Wharf Road because DPW doesn't want to keep sending people out to fix signs or put signs in. So, but we are on a list for signage to be put, but that's something to follow up on. That's kind of the main loose end. Enforcement's an issue for permit program, but it's an issue overall for what's happening in town in terms of ordinances, and there are too few sheriffs and for the area that they need to cover. They don't always get all the same message as to what they're supposed to do, and this has been going on for decades, I think. It's been talked about. So that's ongoing. But the most important thing that's happened is some of the members, and I have some interest in seeing some of the issues that are still there that need to be fixed in terms of what's going on downtown. And we have a lot of people coming to town as for recreational purposes. We now have a new building going in with more people on Wharf Road moving in. And we have the College of Marin, which actually is getting a bit active with people. And so attention needs to be paid. And at the last meeting that members of the committee attended, they wanted the board to still maintain an oversight part of it. But in the report that we wrote, I don't know, is it going to be posted at all? Georgia, were you going to post that report, or is it part of the record, or somehow people can see it?
It's on the website under the agenda item for it on the
Okay,
website.
I
And
apologize.
is it called item 2, report to BPUD resident parking? Sorry, resident
Yeah.
permit parking. Yeah, so it's item.
Okay, so basically what, there's a list of community needs and things that could continue. I'm not gonna go over that again, and we talked about it in our last report and repeated it here. But what's next is, that, the members, of the board, agreed to form a community group that would meet quarterly, and Kirsten agreed to participate and bring the issues up to the board. And it's not like it has to be quarterly that an issue comes to the board, but that's one way to kind of make sure that people are paying attention to the downtown issues. And then there won't be the board, so we understand, it's not going to appoint another formal parking committee. That's just a community group that's gonna be paying attention still to what's going on in a downtown area where current members all live downtown. Person lives downtown.
Or this segues into the next item on the agenda.
That's mine.
Oh,
So what I was going to do is say that if there was anything else about this committee, that Kirsten would be the person to talk about it. I just want to say that the quarterly community group meetings are the next one's March 10th, and we have the date of June 8th, June 9th, September 8th, and December 8th.
When we'll be meeting.
Yeah, when the group meets.
Yes.
Now, however, how it comes to the board, I don't know.
Well, we staggered those dates specifically. If there's anything to be on the agenda, we would be
Yes.
giving you notice
correct.
in time to be able to get on the.
And just like a point of order, basically, I put on for this next item.
Yeah.
Right after this discussion for that group. So, I mean, I understand that the two are kind of bleeding into each other, but we'll continue to discuss this. When we bring it to the next item.
Right. So why don't you wrap up the resident parking?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you.
that so if people were interested, they can look at it, the full report on that agenda.
Item number
Yeah.
2.
Item number 2, thank you.
Great. So that takes us to
Can I
item 3, which is.
can I make
subject.
a comment on that
Well,
item?
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Are there comments allowed on that item that you just spoke about?
You just want to have a comment to make about what we've just been hearing?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
I just want to say it's definitely never been enforced. I can tell you that for a fact, and I can tell you that the signs don't always mean anything because people will park blatantly right in front of the signs in all kinds of ways. So the signs don't necessarily mean anything to everybody, and some people really do follow it and they even ask. But I have a request that the people who do short-term rentals inform their guests, because those are the people who are the very most parking overnight in places where they're not supposed to.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention also.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to go on and call item 3, which in fact is formation of a downtown citizens group. This is a proposal for citizens group to provide quarterly updates to the BPUD Board of Directors. And the proposal is being attributed to Sherry and to Director Walker. Do you want to address this yourself?
Sorry, in terms of just that we're gonna be having this, didn't we just review that we're gonna be having this quarterly meeting?
Is this a proposal though for the BPUD to become active in some way other than just being informed of your meeting?
I
Because it
think it's
says,
just for us
Yeah,
to be
I mean-
informing that I agreed to serve on the committee, and when I met with them on this last meeting, they expressed an interest in continuing, which I think was new news, right? That the committee was willing to keep talking, and that I suggested that we meet quarterly and that I would report back to the BPUD. But I mean, I also think maybe there's a bigger forum just beyond BPUD, even though we are implementing the parking permits. That we could be helping kind of, I don't know, police. I mean, I hear Wendy saying, and I've heard others say, things are not being enforced the way that they would like or the neighborhoods would like.
It's not about like or not like, it's just a fact that it's not being enforced. I'm not giving my opinion. Thanks.
Okay, well, I mean, I have seen people call on Wharf Road specifically, and I have been pulled up by the police while I'm walking by, and they've been asking specifically about somebody taking up residency in a parking spot. So I do think it is being enforced, but
Yes.
it is a required community neighborhood call-in effort, Wendy.
May I say something? Right now, Wharf Road is really hard because we've lost half the unrestricted permit area because of the seawall. It's very tight parking wise, and so and yes, it appears there is not as much enforcement as we want, but they have been enforcing.
That's what I
And,
think. And people have moved as a result. of
Yeah,
that
people, they have
enforcement.
moved people, and also with the
Yeah.
72-hour restriction. They
Yeah.
have, but there's some issues with some people that it's very difficult to move. That's more on Brighton. And there are people who don't understand that they're not supposed to park there, so. It's, the enforcement issue is an ongoing, and it does need to be attention paid to it.
So I have agreed quarterly to report back to the board, but I do think maybe there's another forum that this could be presented.
well,
beyond.
I'm looking at the agenda item, which says formation of a downtown citizens group. And I'm wondering, is there a request that the BPUD become involved in some way in that? Or are you just informing us that you are forming a downtown group and will be reporting to us quarterly on issues?
Yeah, as I just stated.
Yes.
The latter.
Yes,
The latter.
the latter.
But it's just coincidental that you're a board member who lives downtown. It's not like the BPUD is putting a board member on the committee, right?
Well,
thought
I
it
think
was
that
presented
what
at
I
the
was,
last time.
yeah, and this kind of dovetails with the later items where we will look at like board formation, but one of the things that we were advising folks was that if you guys take formal action, including probably appointing a board member to that committee, then really that board is gonna be subject to the Brown Act.
Right.
So I think that this
Even
is.
with one.
No, I think at least in my research into it, you can kind of, as Andrew was just laying out, as a community member, be a member of a downtown citizens group. You can, and as a board member, bring it, request that things go onto the agenda as you were describing, where you describe the stagger meetings, and something has sort of risen in one of your community group meetings to the level where you're requesting some action or support from the board, and then you would come forward. But I would say you know, I would say this is not a formal action of the board to appoint you to this committee. Because then really, then that committee is gonna be subject to the Brown Act, it's just gonna make more work for you guys than it's really gonna, you know, value that it would actually bring. And so, yes, I would just say, you know, what this delineates is that this is sort of a grassroots
Right.
group that is formed.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, to kind of address the issues that downtown residents obviously contend with. And that it's not like, you know, those reports back to us will be formal, because the other thing that I read is just if we schedule this with regularity at our board level, that also you're getting into kind of a gray zone of, oh, this committee should really be subject to the Brown Act. So anyway, so I mean, I don't think that precludes you from coming quarterly and reporting. I just would advise the board to not formalize that those reports in a kind of scheduled manner.
Yeah.
Because then we're kind of veering into this territory of, okay, you kind of did.
Sorry, I thought that was already conveyed.
Oh, I know, I just wanted to
Yeah,
Just,
make it clear to
Yeah, yeah.
everyone who's
Oh,
listening.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
no, I think the way you presented it was clear.
Okay.
And now it's
yeah, yeah.
even more clear.
Is there gonna be any coordination with the Billina Civic Group and this?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was referencing. I think that
Yeah.
was a better forum.
I see, so that would be what you're.
Right, right.
Okay.
Okay, I want to move on to the next item then.
Okay.
BPUD and Fire Department Hazard and Tree Report.
Okay, I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
I know you finally got to be at the front of the meeting.
Yeah.
All these years.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
really Georgia.
Okay.
So yes, this is basically just an opportunity to share with you a draft report for what Belle and I have been working with Chief Krakauer and Isaac Taylor at the Venus Fire Protection District. On this report, it's pretty extensive. I don't know if you guys had specific questions you'd like to ask, but basically the context here is that this report has already been fed to MWPA and their environmental consultants. To remind everybody, this is in the context of you know, drafting, and you can see from the report itself, it's really drafting this hazards report to meet the declaration of emergency from the governor's executive office. And so it's, you know, framing these hazards in terms of their impact on ingress and egress. And obviously this is, you know, ongoing. And I'll let you know, report back to the board regularly on how it's moving forward. But this was a big milestone achievement from our standpoint. We've spent a lot of time on the trees, in the grove, you know, really identifying trees, generating these maps. It's been a total joy to work with the fire district on this, and they've been great partners, and just really appreciate their partnership.
Great, good.
Great.
Thank you. Here. Move on to the next category, contracted work and related solutions, resolutions and approvals. Item 5, board to consider approval or proposal to review and update legal opinion on Bolinas Mesa rights of way. So Max Simmons and Dunn.
Yep, so this is, you know, a never ending saga. You can see that this brings us back to probably 2007 and before that. But effectively, there was a lot of work when you guys, there was some rights of way issues that came up. I started to delve into that a little more deeply, appreciated that there's been extensive work that has already been done on it, but it kind of hit a roadblock and didn't get kind of formalized. So I'd say right now, if you look at Ordinance 30, which really pertains to this, there's some language in there that, you know, the district has already basically gotten legal opinions that not all of that language is really appropriate. And so ordinance 30 really needs to be revised. And so there is, as you see, a reference to a legal opinion which was issued back into like in the early 2007. This whole kind of effort is really getting engaged in 2007 and kind of hits that roadblock that I was talking about in 2011. But it was really within the context of potential legal disputes. And so it was happening in closed session and all of that. And so it didn't really, it wasn't formally discussed in public meetings in a very transparent way, because again, it was in the context of some legal issues going on at the time. But effectively, from all of that research, we kind of know that ordinance 30 needs to be revised. And this, you know, I really feel like it's important for us to not lay waste all of the efforts and money that the district has already spent on this. At the same time, you'll see the price tag even for this is pretty expensive. Talking about almost $18,000.
Yep.
So I don't necessarily, I mean, obviously this has been in this same pattern for many years. So as far as the urgency and the need for the district to spend $18,000 right now, I'm a little ambivalent about that. And maybe what I would suggest is that it would potentially be more appropriate to budget for this in the following fiscal year. But I'm also open to, you know.
Do you think they'll hold to that 18K?
Well, I don't know, but I think it should be around that. I mean, I think delaying it effectively what would be 6 months now is probably not gonna have a huge impact on the price tag. You know, given that it's not like, you know, building or something where it's like, you know, but I don't know. But that's my guess, is that it shouldn't have.
I think
a
you
huge
should
impact.
probably hold at least 5% increase
Okay,
with escalation.
Round it off to 20.
yeah,
Yeah.
Or you could just ask them if they plan to
How long
increase their
it holds,
rates in
yeah.
2026.
okay.
But
Yeah.
I think it's not urgent, right?
Well,
It's interesting.
no, it's not urgent, but I mean, things are gonna get nothing but more expensive. I mean, it's not gonna get cheaper.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, to me, it makes sense to call them up, say, hi, we'd really like to budget for this in the next, you know, in our next financial year.
Yeah.
Can we get some kind of a reasonable guarantee from you that the price is gonna go up by no more than blah, blah, you know, whatever. I mean, just check in
Okay.
with them. If it's gonna go up a bunch, then we pay them now, like, you know.
Okay.
That just seems.
Sign up.
Yeah, exactly. I
Pay
mean,
them
we
$1
need
this year and then we can. keep
Right,
going
yeah, yeah,
next
well,
year.
set up a
right?
payment plan.
Sorry.
Layaway.
Oh, no, that's all right. I can take it first. I was gonna suggest that when we get ready to have them do something, I'd like to have a conference of whoever is assigned to it from that firm. Because I have a lot of what you would call institutional memory on
Yeah.
this issue that goes way back.
Okay,
And I think I could fill them in a lot on some of the
yeah,
points.
and if you guys don't mind, I'm just gonna review quickly from their letter, the actual kind of scope of the
Yeah.
work, because the public is probably not maybe looking at this letter right now. Although it's online, appended with this item. But this is review and evaluate the 2007 legal opinion that the district received on the status of Buenos Mesa. That was the one I was already talking about. Assessment of the effect of new information regarding the conveyance and recording property interests related to the rights of way for the streets on the conclusion of the conclusion of the 2007 memorandum. So this is basically additional information that subsequently came out after the legal opinion was issued, and how that would, you know, how that needs to be considered in a review of the legal opinion. Recommendations for potential course of action to clarify the district's rights and responsibilities with respects to the streets as they relate to the public generally and to property owners and residents in Buenos Mesa. For preparation of a new or revised right-of-way ordinance based on the findings and conclusion of the above mentioned analysis. that would be a review of ordinance 30 and some of the associated permits that we want to clean up too. And advice on the application district's right of way policy on encroachment permitting. Sorry, I actually treated those as two separate items. So my intent in this is really to make sure that we're not just getting a legal opinion that just like sits somewhere, but that it's really informing the amendments to ordinance 30 and our permitting structure.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I wanted to say about this, I think the other thing that we just kind of to your point, Jack, I think actually what I would suggest is that we have a closed session to review what was effectively closed materials that were presented, and we can get advice on how we essentially bring this closed matter out into the public. So it would be basically a review of that previous litigation and what happened at that time, because that was one of the things that I was really struggling with, is that effectively all of this material has been shared with previous board members in closed sessions. And how do I share that now with the board currently when that the kind of legal issues have really passed? And really now what we're talking about is how all of this informs effectively publicly, like public ordinance. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so are you looking for us to approve?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is what you would do is approve conditionally on me investigating what Grace said, which is, if we can properly budget for it, it's nice because it just has less of an impact on our budget. But if there's gonna be some real impact on the price if we wait. And
How long do you think we're gonna wait? I mean, it's November 17th that they wrote the proposal. I have to imagine it's at least 3 to 6 months to hold their numbers. They haven't said at November 17th that their rates would be increasing as of January 1st if we
No.
don't get approval. I mean, I'm inclined to say, particularly in light of what you are offering, which is to give the historic knowledge, is that we move on this as soon as possible, because then the only other clarification in item 4, I do think they should say ordinance number 30, unless it applies to other ordinances. So that we, as a board, have a reference document that gets updated, and we're not in a position where we have to deal on a one-on-one case basis, but we can refer back to, a standard protocol being ordinance number 30.
Well, it seems like the purpose of retaining these folks and getting these opinions is that it all leads to us redrafting our ordinance to comply with the advice that they give us that it's more enforceable and consistent. So
Why these people? I'm just curious.
well, yeah, I think that if we're gonna hire them for their opinions, then I think part of what we're asking them to do is to work with us in the draft of the amendments to the ordinance.
Yes, yes, I mean, I think that's
Yeah, so-
super important. I think that almost, I would say you're reverse engineering this, right? You're looking at ordinance 30, because I'm not really interested in like a whole big legal review. For, theoretical reasons. No offense, Jack, no. And so
Everybody's offending me.
It's not very offendable.
Yeah, so it's really sort of, like I said before, we already know that there's problematic language in ordinance 30, given the legal opinions we've already have basically in our hands. So it's really cleaning up that whole process.
Yeah.
Or that policy. What was the other thing I was gonna say? So yeah, that's fine. You can just direct me to approve this. I just,
Wanna do that?
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
And then, sorry, Kirsten, when you said why them,
Yeah.
basically, one thing I brought to you guys before was essentially an email from 2011 where Jennifer had asked Somac Simmons and Dunn to do exactly what I'm talking about here,
Okay.
to pick this back up, revise ordinance 30 and move forward. That never happened, or there was some, like I said, that they started to move forward with that process. I think maybe at that time the board was a little bit ambivalent and then it didn't happen. So that's why.
So we're building on
Yeah,
this.
so I basically went back out to them and said, hey, remember this conversation from 2011? They're like, no. And yeah, so we,
Somewhere in their files.
yes.
Well, do you need a motion then to,
I think so, yeah, just to approve the proposal is what I would suggest.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal.
all right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I would only ask that we capitalize on your offer as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, as soon as somebody from the firm wants to talk to me about it, I definitely want to fill them in on what I know.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I just have a procedural question, which I probably should have mentioned before. Is this a legal committee first and then a closed session of the board, or are we just going straight to closed session of the board? I have no opinion one way or the other, but.
I don't think this is a closed session item at this point,
Okay.
because there's no pending
Because you were thinking
litigation.
about that.
and
no,
Okay.
I don't think, I think that's what I need support with is basically what is the
Legal committee, or
appropriate.
just you talking to them?
Mhm.
I don't think I'm, I mean, I'm not sure if the legal committee has a role to play at this point.
I didn't know, but
Yeah,
it sounds, I mean, in the most simple way,
Sure.
you talk to them.
yeah,
They come up with their opinion and give it to us.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
that what we're?
Yeah.
We need to be more elaborate than that, I guess is what my.
No, I think what I would suggest is basically what I want to do is inform the entire board
Yeah,
of this legal opinion. Again, that legal opinion has only surfaced in closed session. So I would say is a first meeting with Jack and these guys is warranted, and we can set a path for, hey, what is the appropriate way for this to surface in a public meeting, given that everything has happened in closed session. And ideally, then things will just be happening within our regular meetings.
Perfect.
Unless they think, hey, there's some sensitive stuff that surfaced here that really warrants a closed session prior to this all surfacing in a public meeting. My intention is not to have this in closed session. This is a public
Okay.
meeting. It's just basically the historic nature of how this whole thing came about that I just want to be sensitive to
Yeah.
in terms of.
yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah, but the whole amendment of ordinance 30 should be a matter of public discussion.
Yes.
Yeah,
And it's a really minor comment, but in the memo,
Mhm.
Dunn is spelled with an E, and
Oh,
I was thinking that might be because it said Simons and Dunn. First I was seeing it was Simon Dunn. Anyway, really,
there is that.
all right.
Oh, sorry, I removed on. Okay.
So you have what you need on item
Yeah.
5, is that right, Joe?
Yes. Yeah, thanks.
Represented us for the shared property water.
Okay.
Either move,
okay,
just for your reference,
Great.
why we're using them, I think we've used them before.
okay.
Yes, we use them quite a bit for a lot of water rights stuff and.
Okay,
All right, I'll move on to item 6.
Okay.
Board to consider approval of proposal to prepare a CEQA initial study for the Bolinas eucalyptus project, BEP.
Okay.
And that would be the County of Marin's environmental planning and grassroots environmentalist consultant,
Yes, okay.
Rossetti.
So let me provide some context here. So this is really something that I've already told you guys about, but I didn't have a formal letter from the county. Back in when Janice Tweedy and I met with environmental planning, when the VET project had moved from CDA into environmental planning review, and we were informed obviously that the project was not going to be CEQA exempt. They basically laid out what this would look like. They described at that point, they thought that this initial study would probably cost about $40,000, but then subsequent to that, there were very likely that we would need additional studies, probably in the range of $100,000 to $200,000. That would not negate the potential that there would maybe we would need an environmental impact report. And this was something that we discussed extensively, obviously, at last meeting, where we talked about the VET project and, the efforts that we've made in trying to move that project forward and why we kind of shifted directions and are pursuing the project with the fire district. So what happened was the county reached out to me and said, hey, your project is sitting here in sort of like limbo. We need you to either move forward with it or we need you to formally rescind it. And so at previous meetings, you guys have told me, hey, can we pause, quote unquote, pause this? Basically, what they're saying is no, there's not really a avenue for you to pause a project. You need to move forward with it, or, because they have timing deadlines. So what I said to them is, okay, well, obviously a big part of why, effectively I've advised us to make this decision to shift away from the, pursuing the VEP and instead pursue this other project with the fire district is because of what you guys laid out as sort of this cost and the path. And so this is basically them saying, okay, we'll prepare that initial study proposal for you, and you can bring it before your board. And depending on what the board says, if they obviously decide to pursue this, then we can continue down, moving the project forward through CEQA. Or if you guys decide not to approve this, then effectively we would rescind the proposal. I just want to make clear, obviously, we talked about this extensively. That's not to say that we wouldn't, once we make some headway with the fire district tree removal project, that we wouldn't re-engage something like the VET project, resubmit for a more comprehensive removal of trees and environmental restoration in the tree zone. But really at this time, what I would suggest is that we pursue the fire district project. That this is even worse than I was originally thinking, because it's instead of $40,000, it's actually in the range of 80,000. Yeah, so it's which may mean that all of their other estimates were underestimated as well. So yeah, so that's basically what this is about. And yeah, what I would suggest is that you guys have a vote on whether you want to me to move forward with this proposal and engage this group to conduct.
Do you have a recommendation?
I'd recommend that we not pursue this. I'd recommend that we pursue the fire district project. I think it's also too complicated to pursue both in parallel because it's essentially not really appropriate to have two projects that are kind of similar in scope happening at the same time. It's going to really complicate sort of like the biological reviews if ultimately you're saying, oh, we're proposing removing these trees. Oh, by the way, we have this other project that's removing all of these trees, right? It's just going to potentially really complicate the fire district project to pursue both in parallel.
So if I understand it correctly, what can't happen is to have it sitting in the county with a pause button hit.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're suggesting at the moment is that it kind of come back to us with the pause button hit.
Yes.
Like we would still like all of that to keep moving forward, but we can't let it sit at the county. So we're bringing it back to us with all the work that's been done is going to be being held by us basically. Yeah. And watching the fire department, which seems like the, kind of has the green lights as it were, that move forward. Once that is actively moving or finished, then we can, should the community choose, move forward using the information that has been laboriously gathered.
Yeah. And I would just add a couple points to that. So one is we used a bunch of those studies in the fire district.
I know, yeah, no.
So like, I know that members of the community that and other, financial supporters of the VET project obviously were very discouraged when that was hitting a lot of roadblocks, and I just obviously want to thank everybody for all of their hard work. And I'm hoping that, all of those reports, even through the fire district project alone, are helping move that project forward.
Mm-hmm.
But as Grace says, there's nothing to preclude us from again using those reports for a more comprehensive project. And I would say, there's a few, like I can't predict the future, I'm hopeful that the fire district project will move forward. I would encourage people that care about this subject to go back and watch the November meeting because we spent an hour plus discussing that, you know, the trees and all of that. But I would say that, yeah, that the fire district project is not the VEP project, but at the same time, the fire district project is one that allows us in a more timely way to mitigate some of the hazards that we already know exist, especially as they impact ingress and egress. And the fire district through MWPA, although this is not assured, but is likely to have $200,000, around $200,000 for the next 5 years. So $200,000 this next year, $200,000 after that, which is again a lot more kind of grounded in reality than pursuing the VEP, which ultimately looked like a multi-year, not guaranteed, very difficult CEQA process, and ultimately spending a lot of money on environmental permitting when at the end of that we had no guarantees that we had money to actually do the work. So again, you know, it's not to preclude us. Oh yeah, what I was gonna say is that, you know, there's different avenues where I can imagine re-engaging something like the VEP sooner rather than later, which would be, you know, the MWPA, that whole project gets thwarted, it doesn't happen, you know, and then it's just like, okay, we gotta pursue this more laborious permitting project. Or, you know, that project does what it can, runs out of money, we need to pursue a more laborious project through this other avenue. So I don't know exactly how this will all pan out. My hope is that the fire district project is very successful. We remove some of the most hazardous trees in terms of their proximity to the road and girth and all of that within the next 5 years in sort of these tranches. And at the end of it all, we've learned a lot, we've removed a lot of trees, and we can then re-engage another process to remove more of the trees and do more
Yeah.
restoration.
I think it's a good plan.
Well, what does it mean though, if with what's already been submitted to the environmental planner, if we elect not to proceed? So does that mean if it doesn't go through the fire department that we would?
Yeah, we have to re-engage. I think that, like, as we talked about before, some of the issues, this was kind of getting into the technical issues, but basically, the project moved from CDA into environmental planning, but with the idea that it probably would have been more successful if it moved into CEQA with some revisions. And we basically had gotten a little bit hamstrung because we were kind of like thwarted into that next process, and we're like, wait, no, we agree with you. We do think we should modify this project to make CEQA easier. We didn't get to do that. So I think that even if ultimately we need to resubmit, repurpose, or not, you know, reuse those same
Could it be an
reports.
amendment to
Yes,
our
then
middle versus?
Yeah, I don't know, I can look into that, or if there's basically some
I don't know, I'm just looking for.
leniency around it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something that they were, you know, it wasn't cookie cutter, it was like, you know, but it also wasn't like, we'll make you, you know, there's no interest on the county in helping move that project forward, especially obviously if the other fire district project gets thwarted in some ways. I'm sure they'll be amenable for us to pick that back up.
Well, the other thing that occurs to me is the whole permitting process has really been kind of a moving target. I mean, we could not have anticipated that the unfortunate consequence of the LA fires was suddenly there was this like
Yeah.
opening that we may be able to take advantage of. So, you know, who knows what funding may become available in the next 5 years. I mean, there's the process that we know that is in place at the moment that we have hoops we have to jump through. And then there's the wild card, and the wild cards seem to be fairly active in this particular arena. So, suddenly
Yeah.
there's funding from,
Yeah.
Marin Wildfire, suddenly there's an opening for permitting. So,
Yeah, and I do
it
think that
seems to be
some of
very
it,
fluid, I guess is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
yes, and some of, to your point, Grace, like some of this characterization of defining your project under the executive order also means that it opens state funding to you to actually do the work, right? So I mean, that's really what MWPA is taking advantage of
Mhm.
already, but I think that we should also, pursue those funding measures through our own applications, but I think we kind of need to get through this first hoop of have we defined this project in a way that is meeting the sort of measure of the executive order.
For sure.
Somebody has their hand up. Is that Michael?
No, it's a Janine, but I think it's from before.
Cursor, I think.
Oh, just didn't get taken off.
Pressure?
That was the hand, but-
Pressure.
Okay, so does anybody else want to address this issue?
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Since we were co-applicants with BEP, has BEP reviewed this? Do they have a bunch of money that they want to pay for CEQA review?
They do not have
Okay.
a bunch of money,
They've
and
been-
I have
they've been contacted.
kept, Janice in the loop forwarded all the
Okay, cool.
emails, which, she was already aware of, so I think they're still on the correspondence
Great.
for all of this, so they're aware.
Okay, cool. That's my question.
Do you need a motion or any action by the board on this, or is this mostly just it?
Yeah, I would say that you guys are gonna be voting on this, and I would recommend that you vote to not approve the proposal. Cause otherwise you're approving a proposal for me to pursue this initial study of, this $80,000.
So you're sort of looking for a yay or nay vote on the
Exactly.
proposal?
I also have just asked one other question.
Sure, yeah.
Because we have Kevin here and I feel like Kevin's weighed in on this. I know he can't vote, but I'm just wondering if Kevin has anything he wants to contribute or say before we vote.
Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, I think I'm a little sad to see the BEP project not moving forward, but I understand the reasons having two concurrent projects in the same property is difficult and maybe impossible. So I like the strategy that we have. It's moving slower than I would like. 5 years seems like a long time, but I agree with what Grace said that it's a fluid situation and the mood seems to be shifting, especially with eucalyptus trees. So hopefully as we go, we'll be able to do more and more each year. That's my hope. So I agree with Georgia's recommendation. Thanks.
All right.
Great.
So do we need a motion then to adopt your recommendation?
Yes,
All right.
please.
Anyone want to make a motion? The motion would be to not proceed with the application with the county and go with the fire department's
Yeah.
grant project instead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, as a matter of order, maybe if you guys don't approve this and don't even vote on it, it doesn't get approved by default. So I don't know what your normal kind of course would be when you have a proposal before you and you're essentially not supporting it. But whatever that is, I think it's clear just to have an action that says, hey, we didn't.
Well, we've applied for something, right? We've begun a process working with the county on a
Yes,
particular.
okay, sorry, and that's a really important point. It would be not only to not support approval of this, for me to go out and approve this proposal, but it would be a rescinding
Yes.
of the vet from the county.
Yeah.
So yes, I would
Yeah,
say
I
a
guess
formal vote for both of those.
that was my question, which is what does that mean when we
Yeah,
send that?
yeah, I think that's the most significance, because we did take active steps to get involved in that. If we're gonna pull back from it and
Yeah.
cancel it, basically, we should vote on that.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I said this before, but basically what happens is I'm contacted by the county and they're like, you need to either move forward with this project or rescind it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I say, okay, well, I don't want to do that in a public meeting because I know that we're supportive generally of this project.
Yeah.
So can you provide this proposal that was really the context for when, like you said, especially when the permitting was really shifting, the landscape for permitting was really shifting, which is why we, changed directions and said, okay, let's try this other thing, given how expensive and laborious this other process looks. So this is basically the backing of, yes, that other process is laborious and expensive. So that's really the context is we're not moving forward with this proposal, and okay, county, we will rescind our, given that we're not moving forward with this proposal, we will rescind our application.
I mean, I think to your point, it just lapses out, doesn't it? If we don't.
Well, I think we shouldn't just let it die, wither away. I think we should actually make an affirmative decision that we're gonna rescind our.
I mean, that is what the county requested of me, so
Yeah, I think it's clean for their records too.
Yes.
Because then they get to close the file and you'll make some kind of correspondence with them to confirm that our board has made that
and
decision.
yeah, I mean, basically what I told them is I would bring this forward at this meeting. I'll let them know tomorrow
Yeah,
if we're moving forward with the proposal or if we're rescinding.
exactly. Yeah, I think we need to do that. So gonna get a motion?
Kevin's ready.
Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
One more question. Thank you. Georgia, in regards to the studies that BEP commissioned, some of them are already a few years old, I believe. So do you feel confident that we can still use those once we, restart this project in whatever form it takes, whether that's a few years from now, some of those studies will be 5, 6 years old. Do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think also the landscape in there ideally will be very different because we'll have taken down a bunch of trees. So I don't foresee that there's especially given how the county has really required a lot of us in terms of what we would be providing. I don't foresee that there would be a situation where we wouldn't have to revise proposals and update sort of the status of the grove, especially if we're taking down a lot of trees there. But I definitely think that, to use those trees and those reports and re-engage the people that had already done that work is obviously hopefully a much more efficient process than, cold turkey being like, hey, can you look at this grove? So, but yeah, to be candid, not just because of the timing issue, which you raised, but I think ideally we've actually removed a lot of trees. And so somebody needs to kind of readdress sort of the standing conditions in there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so perhaps you can, in a summary way, tell us the wording of the motion you're looking for.
Yeah. So let me see.
Because it's kind of a two-part motion, really.
Yes, okay, so if the board does not approve this proposal, BCPUD staff recommends that the board direct the staff to rescind the BEP CDP application from County of Marin. And that the board resubmit a revised tree removal proposal in the future once BCPUD EPF project has been executed. So, sorry, I was just reminding myself of what the language here. But I would say, basically, you guys are bringing forward a motion that says you're not supporting the proposal from Gassetti and Co. And that you're directing staff to rescind the BEP application from the county.
There you go. Okay. Very good. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
A second? No seconds. You don't want to second it? You want to second it?
I know, one second.
You don't?
Mm.
You want?
You have anything you want to say?
No, I just don't want my name with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I wish you were here, Kevin, because I echo what you're saying, which is, and I feel like there's probably a lot of work, disappointment.
I guess my question is, since we're co-applicants and there are, Jonna, I believe, is still the lead applicant, and so I guess it sort of goes back to Andrew's question is, how does BEP feel about this proposal, it sounds like they can't have, they don't have money set aside to pay for it, but are they okay rescinding the application? Because it's not just ours, it's also, it was spearheaded by them. A lot of this was paid for by them. Um, so are we just basically voting to take our name off the application? And I mean, I don't know that we have the authority to rescind the entire application, do we?
A good point.
You have an answer for that one, Georgia?
Only that I kept Janice in the loop this whole time. We could delay this, but like I said, I already told, the county that I'd be delivering a message to them sooner rather than later, so that's basically another month. But
Well, if we have,
Maybe we're just
And this
voting
is-
on our part of their submission,
oh,
is that right?
yeah, I would say that is what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if BEP wants to keep this project alive and, John Cozy, Janice, Jonna, whatever members of BEP are still involved, if they want to continue the project without us, then
Yeah.
maybe they do. But I don't think we should rescind the project entirely without,
Mhm.
I don't think we have the authority to do that.
Yeah, I understood the motion to be our role in
Mhm.
the project, right? No, we can't.
Well, it's an application, so I think you rescind the application. I don't know about rescinding our name as co-applicants.
Oh.
That's basically what we'd be doing, but I don't think that that's really solving the problem that the county wants solved, which is what are you guys doing with this?
Is this-
Whether you is us or us and Bet.
Yeah,
It feels a little basically dysfunctional to, say like, oh, well, we is not us. It's just like that, but I'm fine. I mean, maybe what you guys could do is direct me to get a formal response from Beth around, a two-parter, basically second the motion that you have before you, but with first part being reaching out to Beth and seeing whether they're, I don't really understand what the alternative would be. If they say, no, we're not interested, then we're essentially removing ourselves as co-applicants. So we could revise the motion to just be that. And then I could tell Beth, hey, the board decided to formally rescind themselves as co-applicants. But you can give me the go-ahead to formally rescind the entire application, because that would be a cleaner process.
I guess, just for clarification, it sounded to me from reading the materials that the choice was move forward or not. And moving forward was going to involve throwing down a very large amount of money.
Yes,
Us,
yes,
us and Bet, but
they're not providing any money, that's
Right.
us.
and
To the sum of 80,000.
To the sum of
84,000.
Yeah.
right.
Right now, yeah, that's
Yeah,
to be
but
clear,
there's
that's
no
That's just the
contribution from
beginning.
that,
yes,
That's the beginning.
yes.
yeah,
And
where we have an opportunity to fold it into the firehouse
Yeah.
effort. And is Beth willing to help support that funding and effort coming from the firehouse?
I don't know, but I mean, that's up to them if they wanted to do, fundraising for that and contribute to that project, but it's not something that we've talked to them about. And I'd suggest I wouldn't complicate this discussion with that idea
Yeah.
right now.
I don't see what our options are really.
No.
I mean, I don't see us with an extra 80
No.
grand of the taxpayers'
I
money
would
to
agree.
put in. I'm tickled pink with the idea of getting as many trees down as possible.
Mm.
I support the BET project 100%, but at this juncture, I'm not on the finance committee, but finance committee folks, is there an extra 80
Yeah.
to 150 grand floating
Yeah.
around there?
Mhm.
I
Are you
don't know how we.
willing to
Yeah,
consider
I-
seconding the motion or not?
Yeah, so Grace brings
I don't
up
think I
an
can.
important point,
Okay.
which is
I think the
effectively.
chair is supposed to.
You can say,
A chair can second, you just can't make a motion, but you can.
Oh, I could second the motion.
Okay, well, Georgia was saying something.
Yeah, I was just seconding Grace's point, which is kind of not losing sight of
Yeah.
just the big picture here, which is from the standpoint of the county, you fund these initial studies and that moves your project forward. Basically, at that point, you know, yes, if you guys don't want to have a formal action that says we rescind our proposal, I mean, I guess you could do that, but it's a little bit weird. I mean, basically, by not supporting this proposal, that's effectively what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're not willing to move this project forward.
Well, we're saying we're not willing to spend the money at this moment out of our coffers
Yes.
Right.
in order to pay for these.
Yes, and they're
studies.
saying if we don't fund that,
Different
then
than
you're not meeting the
supporting the project.
deadlines, and so you're, you know, but I think what happens is they prefer, I mean, I guess we could say, sorry, we just don't wanna have that formal vote because we're, you know, effectively theoretically so supportive of this project, but we're pursuing another line here, but I just think that that overcomplicates things.
Yeah.
I really would advise you guys to basically, if you're not supporting the initial study, then effectively you're saying we don't
Then you're not.
support the initial study and we are rescinding our application
Yeah.
Well,
as
I-
co-applicants.
I would say I agree. I'm apprehensive about supporting something that is gonna be $84,000 at BPUD's taxpayers' costs, right? We don't have that funding. The only reason I am hesitant is because I really don't understand what it means to rescind. Like, will we ever have an opportunity to build upon the effort and the reports that we've already submitted versus just taking no action and letting it fizzle out? That has been my experience with the planning, but I hear you, they have come to you and said, where are we at with this?
Yeah.
I'm apprehensive about making a vote to withdraw our.
Okay, interesting.
My standpoint is I understand everything intellectually, but it's been a fraught relationship recently with BEP, and they work so hard, and we're also using their reports in the fire proposal, and so without a formal approval from them,
Yeah.
then I don't want to vote on it. But otherwise, I understand everything else.
Go ahead.
Just want to say, I think you should follow your gut on this. I think that that's really true. It's a fraught issue, and I think you could maybe not wait the month, but at least the courtesy of getting a formal reply from them. And there may be some source that they had for funding, because I think it was mentioned at one point that they had been prepared to do the funding instead of the BPUD taking the funding. And now I don't know where that came from, unless they have some people who are willing, but they should be able to answer that, I think.
So maybe.
I mean, it's already
maybe there's
answered that they don't have
a
funding.
missing
Yeah.
step.
But we also haven't seen anything from the county that like is explaining the urgency here. You know, like there's no.
Well, I've been in a meeting with
Yeah.
county where they're explaining
Yeah.
that to me, so you, I mean, at some level, you
But I
can
mean,
take
that's-
me at face value, I'm in a meeting where they're telling me, hey, these timelines are gonna run out. We essentially, you're sitting in limbo here, please, we'll send you a proposal, you either support this proposal or you rescind your application. I mean, I guess from
Or you
the
do
standpoint,
nothing.
I don't really care if we go another month and I effectively get a response from the BEP in as much as I can find people that represent the BEP and a formal support from them that they are fine with us rescinding the application and we just bring this back forward in a month. That's fine by me. I guess what I am concerned about, given the fraught relationship with BEP and they're really not wanting, I mean, it's gonna be very emotional for them to formally rescind that proposal. And what if they say, no, we're not interested?
Then I think.
Then we
it
basically-
phases out. I don't
Yeah.
think you have to do anything formally with planning. I think they're doing us a courtesy. Actually, by letting us know, hey, you have a timeline that's running out. If you want to meet your timeline, you need to cough up 84,000, and we're saying we don't have that money, so.
Well, if that's the standpoint, I mean, they basically told me to do that, so I mean, I'm taking them at their word. But if that's your guys' opinion, that we just let it die on the vine, then just all you have to do is not support the proposal, the initial study. You don't have to do anything, and I can just tell them, you know, hey, I'm not sure if this complicates things from your end, but the board did not want to take a formal action to rescind, but
As a
please,
co-op.
and we'll just let the timelines play out.
Yeah.
But basically, the
What is
board
the
is not
timeline?
willing to support financially the initial study that essentially is necessary to move this forward.
And what is the timeline?
I don't know, I think like Kirsten is saying that they're basically haven't even hit go because they've been, given our public agency nature, they're treating us differently in terms of setting the go start, because otherwise the timelines would have.
Kevin, when do you come back?
January 16th.
Is that before our next meeting?
Yes, it is. I feel pretty strongly that BEP should have the last word on this, on rescinding the application. I think it's clear that BPUD board doesn't want to spend the money on this study, but if BEP feels differently, then they can take it and they can raise money and they can do the study and they can keep the project going. I mean, members of BEP have been very vocal publicly in the hearsay in public meetings at our own BPUD meetings that their project is they feel very strongly that that's the only way to do it. So this is where the rubber meets the road. If they want to continue with this project, then that's the way to do it, is to commission this study and work with the county. So I think it's up to them to make that call. We are saying we don't want to pay for it, but if they do, then they should have the chance to. And I think they should have the sort of last word with abandoning the project with the
All right.
county.
Okay, then the other thing though that I would say is that it does complicate our fire district project. So I would encourage you, if that's the direction you guys want to take, then you should remove yourselves as co-applicants on the BEP project. Because
Yeah.
think it's a very bad idea to pursue both of these projects in parallel. So if you essentially say, hey, BEP, you can pursue this project as you see fit. Here it is, you can continue with that, but we are not interested in being co-applicants anymore because we're pursuing this other line. But I don't think you want to be in a position where effectively we're pursuing this project with the fire department and then that decides, oh, well, we have found this money and we're pursuing now this broader project in parallel to what you guys are doing.
Okay.
Well, I don't think
that's
it's
a good
that
idea.
we're not interested in funding this project. I think we are not in a position to
Mhm.
be able to fund this at 84,000. I just want to make one clarification because I agree with what Kevin is saying. And then in terms of the co-application about removing ourselves, I guess you guys know more about this than I do, and all the intricacies, thank you, of the relationships that are going on here, but I just wonder why wouldn't BEP be willing to consider helping support the fire department in
Oh, I
their
think
effort?
ultimately members have been supportive. I mean, as far as them acting as a formal head and
Okay.
saying we,
So then I
here's-
think it's language, not that we're not interested and we're gonna remove ourselves as a co-applicant. It's that if we put ourselves in a conflict of interest because we have another agency that is pursuing this, and our recommendation would be to withdraw our application and that we rally our collective support behind the fire community.
Oh,
Fire
yeah,
department.
I mean, definitely, effectively though, that is the same thing that we're talking about here. I think it's more the rhetoric and basically making it clear we are supportive of a comprehensive project at the end. We are hopeful that BEP and all of the community members that are so interested in removing trees will support the the fire district tree proposal. Well, I've not gotten any indication from them that they're or I guess
Okay,
that's
well,
not
I
totally
just-
accurate, but we basically they're supportive of the efforts that we continue to make to remove trees in collaboration with.
Well, I'm
the
just
fire
picking up
district.
what Andrew said is, they are using the reports that pursued and helped finance,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I would wanna make sure, like, who authorized that?
All right, so here's my thought. Let's continue this to the January agenda. Kevin will be back for that meeting. In the meantime, I just follow what Andrew said about involving Beth a little. I think we should give them a heads up on what we're talking about and the considerations we have so that they know what's on our agenda for the January meeting and can make their own presentation on what they would like to see us do. Whether we do it or not is beside the point at this
Yeah.
point. I think that they're entitled to notice and an opportunity to be heard. And I think that we should have a full board on the vote. So I'd like to continue it to January.
I would agree with that, except I really don't wanna be in a position where I've got a room full of people from BEP. And we have a conflict of interest and we have to make a vote to rescind ourselves from an
Yeah, but
application.
I don't know that you can ask them not to participate in the discussion. I think they're entitled to notice and to be
I
heard.
agree, I would just hope that they would come with an understanding of the position that we are being put in now.
Well, I think Georgia can articulate it and,
Okay.
but I also think it's the kind of a thing that ought to have the full board voting. So I'm gonna recommend that we continue it for that purpose and give them an opportunity to be here and make their pitch.
I think I was just gonna say it'd also be nice to understand the county's process for letting the application fizzle versus rescinding and what the urgency, if anything, is.
Okay,
Because we're not proposing to move two applications in tandem for the same
No.
vote, but
no. So do you guys agree with doing that or?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, to me, the real issue is spending water district
Yeah.
money, even though it is our land and I feel responsible for it, absolutely. You know, unbudgeted
Mhm.
money,
Yeah.
a large amount of unbudgeted money.
Yeah.
In a sense, because the county is saying here.
Yeah.
Now.
Do it.
But I do think it's threefold. It's that we're not in a position to vote on that amount of money.
Yeah.
We don't have full clarification of what the impact would be if we were to rescind the vote
Mhm.
on our behalf. And so
Mhm.
that's where Andrew and I are in agreement, like,
Mhm.
what does that look like versus letting it phase out? And then the third is what Georgia has expressed concern about is we have another entity and we don't want to be in a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Well, and the
Okay.
fourth is that we haven't formally been told by the co-applicant that they want to proceed that way.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so for all those reasons, let's put it on the January agenda and give Beth a heads up that these are the concerns that we need to resolve. And then we'll take a vote on what to do.
I think it would be really nice if that could get together, look at those concerns in writing and come back to us with a proposal. I don't know that it's gonna be particularly efficient to have a large emotional meeting, and if
No.
that happens, it happens. But I'm more interested in how do we move forward with working on the eucalyptus grove. And I think that if, rather than hashing it out on the spot, it'd be really nice for them, if they are willing to come back with a written set of suggestions or bullet points or a proposal or something, so that we have
Yeah,
a document from them with their desires that we can then look, how do we mesh those two things, what we can do and what they would like to have.
Well, and I think Georgia might convey something in writing too about the discussion that we've just had and the alternatives that we're facing. So that these are the reasons why we would do this or the reasons why we would do that. That is that they need to know where we're coming from.
Mhm.
Because at the top of the list is this idea of spending money that we don't have.
well, I can tell you right now, if it comes to vote next month and we're still being asked for 84,000,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to say no.
Okay,
But I would like to know what it means as an action to rescind our submittal.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that I've not gotten a straight answer from the county on this, right? Because I asked them, I mean, you guys already directed me to hit pause, which is what I told them. Hey, can I hit pause on this? They're like, no, you can't hit pause on this. So that's where I'm faced with, they've asked me, the way that you proceed here is either you pursue this initial study,
Yeah,
and that's how you move this forward, or you rescind your
Well, let me
application.
tell you
or-
why they're doing that. Because they don't want you to sit on it, you know, for, let's say, 3 years or whatever, and then it to come back up and, you know, they've either approved it or there's been no action or they were on the verge of approving it. So they don't want to be in a position where somebody is waiting and pushing out. So having asked them that question, they had no other option than to respond and say, this is what we need from you. So
Mhm.
that is my experience in going in from planning.
Okay.
Because you could let it fizzle out, but you'd have to ask an expediter or
let's wrap up our discussion on this subject and keep going.
I have just a clarification question. If you said, yes, you want to pursue it, do you have to give any money now? I mean, you could be on
Yes.
any timeline.
Yeah,
You engage, you pay them, and then they engage the environmental
Okay.
sorry.
yeah, $85,000.
And you have to do it right away. I thought
Yeah.
maybe you could do it and then.
That is basically how we move this project forward. I
Yeah.
guess what
Well,
I'm
it's
concerned
open-ended.
about is that basically you guys have already approved us moving forward with the fire district project. And so, you know, effectively, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily, I wouldn't frame it as a conflict of interest because they have the same interest, which
Right,
is removal of trees. What it is that the project needs to be defined, and when environmentalists look at the impact of that project, they need to understand the comprehensive impact, environmental impact of that. That means that if two projects are being pursued complementarily or in parallel, right, the biological impact is the cumulative impact of those projects together.
Mhm.
So really why we're complicating the fire district project by pursuing this other project is, you know, if you look at how we framed that is, hey, we are proposing quote unquote a phased approach here. We're only proposing that we remove 10% of these trees. If we then say, oh, but by the way, we have this other project where we're proposing to remove all of them,
yeah,
that really complicates the fire district project. So I think that if you guys are saying, yes, we support the fire district project, we are hitting pause, we are hitting rescind, we are hitting whatever you want to call it, we are not pursuing this other project.
okay,
Can I clarify what my position is here? Because
Yeah.
I feel like we're making a mountain out of this. I do not want to vote on this because we have not seen a letter from BEP saying we want to rescind. We are willing to rescind. Like I agree with everything that you're saying, but because we have not seen a formal document from BEP that says we have from
Yeah.
anyone from BEP, Janice or John or whoever.
okay,
That's the only reason why I'm not voting.
okay.
Like every other reason I agree with,
Mhm.
but we have like it's
They
just-
need to know
it's
that
bad,
they need-
it's bad community
Okay,
meeting.
Yeah.
Like it's just we have to have everyone involved.
yeah, no, that's why I'm suggesting that we put it over for a month.
But I
for that
but I don't think I don't think it needs to be like an emotional meeting. I think it could just be like BEP writing you a letter, and there doesn't have to be anyone from BEP in the audience.
Yeah, I think the question is, do I get that letter from Beth? But I can try to get
Well, you
that
said you
letter.
already got it from Janice.
No, I mean, I don't have a letter from her, and whether Janice speaks for Beth or Janice speaks for Janice, that's the complexity.
Yeah.
So, that's been my experience working with Beth previously, is that I get word that they're supportive of some direction that I'm taking, but then it turns out that they're not
Right.
as a whole supportive of that.
That's
So it
my
makes
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think I agree with your guys' approach of let's, you know, to me, I'm not, you know, I need to get back to the county, and because I said I would get back to them tomorrow, but I can just tell them, hey, for whatever reason, we need to postpone this vote until January, I'll get back to you then.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you know, obviously the BEP members, can watch this discussion tonight.
Yeah.
And also in as much as they can give me a formal support of, and I would say, I would frame this as we're pursuing the fire district proposal.
Yeah.
You know, the default of that is that essentially we can't in parallel pursue the vet project. And if you guys, the cleanest way then is effectively get support from them. Yes, we agree with your approach here. And then go back to the, rehash this discussion, hopefully in a more compressed fashion in January with the formal support of vet that they agree with the direction we're
Yeah.
taking. And then I can reach back out to the county. And then at that point, I think the vote that you guys are taking is what I would say was tonight's vote, which is rescinding as co-applicants our application and not pursuing the initial set.
So I'm happy to make that vote contingent on the things that we've just outlined. And my recommendation tomorrow in talking to the county is just, thank you, we need to work with our co-applicant, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be anything.
Well,
more
and
than that.
frankly, for the
Yeah,
next 2 weeks, nothing's gonna happen at the county anyway, 'cause everybody's on vacation. So it's like they're waiting for 2 weeks for us, two working weeks.
Yeah.
Usually you have like 30 days to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They don't actually, that's what I was perusing through while you guys
Yeah.
were talking was, I don't see any deadlines here. The only thing would be if we appealed the initial study at all, but that came and went, like there was no intention that we would appeal that.
Yeah.
So, I don't see any other deadlines written in here, so I will, take your approach, Kirsten, and just
Yeah.
say, we'll come back to you in January.
Yeah.
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 Thank
So do
you.
you want us to make a vote otherwise, because I think we're all in agreement with the exception.
What would be the vote? Voting on what?
That we're not prepared to release our BPUD funding of 84,000 and moving forward with this application. And that we want to hear from our co-applicant that they're on board with that. If we have to rescind.
I would
we'll
just
let
say
it
it's
figure out.
cleaner to just pause it,
Yeah.
and then Kevin
Okay.
will be here, he can be recorded.
Oh, that's right.
and stuff.
It's a non-action,
Okay.
decision.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
just trying to not push.
Yeah, trying to
I
move
know.
things along.
I mean, I think how much time has just taken the four of us,
Yeah.
5 of us, 6 of us, 7. I just don't want it to become a monster. item at the
Okay.
next
Well, I'll
meeting.
try to, I'll
I
show up a little
second
bit.
what Andrew had asked. Is
A
that just,
letter would be
you don't
great.
need to come to the meeting. Just give us a letter.
All right.
Because we are on item number 6 of
Yeah.
3
Well,
items on our
We're
agenda.
gonna skip 7 and 8 and move right on to number 9.
Okay,
Item 9, review and propose amendments to ordinance 28, which is the cross connection control ordinance.
yep, okay, so this came to you as before at the November meeting, basically I told you then that it would come before you again tonight. Because I guess it's best practice to have ordinances in 2 meetings to give, the public an opportunity to weigh in. And so if you guys could approve this, again, we already discussed all of these revisions last time. So effectively, it was kind of a formal vote for you to approve ordinance 28 as amended.
As amended. Okay,
And we also, we have like a week and a half before it's due, right?
what's that?
Right, okay. We have to have this like plan in place before 2026,
Oh,
so.
we got plenty of time then.
Let's do a special meeting next Wednesday.
Should we wait for Grace to come in back in here? I guess we have 3 people sitting there.
I think it's probably fine.
I would move to approve the submission of the cross connection.
Oh, sorry, that's the next item.
Okay.
Right now, you're just voting on ordinance 28
okay.
amendment.
Got it,
Amended.
the amendment, okay. I would also make that motion.
So you move to approve the amendments to ordinance 28.
I do, yes, I make that motion.
And that's with those red lines. That should
Mhm.
be included, which is the installation maintenance.
Yeah.
Cost and administrative fee.
So do you want to second
Sure, I'll
that?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
I have a
Aye.
question about, oh, okay.
Oh, no.
Go ahead, Gavin.
Oh, just a very small one, but there's a $20 fee associated with this, and I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if we should peg that to inflation somehow, or it seems like with a lot of our ordinances,
Yeah,
they sort
just
of
to,
they get set on a dollar amount and then they never change until 20 or 30 years later when we look at it again and then, do a big
Yeah.
jump. So,
so I would suggest that basically, people, any members of the public that are interested in this particular discussion, go back to November where we looked at some of this language more carefully. This is really where we discussed the amendments. Just to relay that the next discussion item is related to the plan. The plan really calls back to this ordinance, which is why I wanted you guys to amend it. But ultimately, when we implement the plan over the next few years, we're gonna wanna overhaul the entirety of this ordinance. But yes, I agree with you, Kevin. And the other thing is that I would say that's a general theme for our ordinances. What I've seen other districts do is that they have a fee schedule that's like annually approved with their Prop 218. And that then you don't embed these kinds of fees into the ordinance itself. You basically call upon the fee schedule. And that's probably a better way to deal with the issue that you're talking about. So when we revise the ordinance, we'll look towards, creating a fee schedule for these types of fees.
okay, thank you.
All right, and that just segues right into item 10.
Oh, sorry, did you guys, yeah, you voted, okay.
We just voted, yeah, while you were gone.
I'm in favor.
Okay. So item 10, review and approve submission of cross-connection control plan to the State Water Resources Control Board.
Yep, and that's this, then, as I was saying, the legal teeth for this plan is the ordinance that you guys just approved.
Yeah.
But this is basically a statutory requirement of us to update our cross-connection control plan. Again, we talked about this last meeting, but this is really about securing the safety of the public water system from being contaminated by potential constituents on somebody's private property. So in that case, you make people put in a backflow device, and that prevents that cross connection. So any just questions, obviously it's a kind of like legal document that's not the most stimulating document in the world.
It looks good though. Looks
Mhm.
good.
You need a vote on this?
Yeah, if you guys can, it's basically what I would vote on is directing me to submit this to the state
Water Resources? Okay.
Absolutely.
So can I get a motion?
I noticed one thing, Georgia.
Yeah,
It's on it's page 7 of the document. Sorry, page 7 of the attachment, but it's page 6 on the document. There's an empty bullet point, and I just want to make
I
sure
already saw that, thank you.
okay.
I have it
And then,
circled right here.
okay.
Ready now?
And well, I just was wondering, since there's so much compliance involved with this, and I'm wondering if we could work with our billing provider, Into Data, our water and sewer billing provider, to incorporate some reminders on these sorts of, fees that people have to pay for things like this. Just to make less, work and reminders for Belle and Annie and you. Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
only other concern.
I mean, the plan, just to be clear, this is like the plan that they essentially will approve or tell you to amend or whatever. But the implementation of the what is it? There's another, sorry, I'm like blanking on the other P word that I want to use, but it's basically the program. The cross connection control program is more at the implementation stage. So like you'll see that there's a lot of language that I added in here is like, we'll try to do this.
Yeah.
And then but understand we're in a rural district and some of these timing things might need to be adjusted and blah blah blah. So I agree, Kevin, like as you can see, the person who is primarily responsible for dealing with all of this is basically Annie. So she reviewed it and alerted, it is a nightmare to essentially implement this plan as it's written here. I think what I'm looking at is effectively like, hey, this is kind of best practice and stuff we're gonna have to track anyway. But when we go to actually implement the program, we'll see and maybe we'll say, okay, we're not gonna give this 15-day notice here that we plan to do because it's just too cumbersome or whatever. So anyway, I would just say that this is definitely a working document. Where I can, I'll add more of that language to say, this is the plan at this point in time.
Yeah, no need to add language, but it's just something I thought of, just trying to streamline things and automate as much as possible and make Annie's life easier. But no, I thought it's a great document, and it was fascinating to learn about the cross connection requirements. Thank you.
Right. All right, let's go on to item 11.
Did you guys approve? You thought, I don't think you voted on it yet.
Oh, I think you're right. Okay, did we even get a motion on? I don't think so.
Not yet.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the cross connection control plan that's going to be forwarded to the State Water Resources Control Board.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On to item 11.
Thank you.
Review Brown Act compliance for existing committees. You want to make this a separate item before we go into the?
Yeah, I really just brought this back because this was brought to you guys before
Mhm.
and laid the groundwork for, hey, what are the things we should keep in mind when we think about the committees that we form or dissolve or whatever. So I don't think we need to talk about this in any great deal. I just kind of brought it back because it's relevant to the action items
Yeah.
that we're taking.
No, I'm grateful because it always seems to come up and
Mhm.
it's really helpful to have a document to go back and be able to reference. So
Mhm.
I am filing this one. That's
Okay.
my for future
Great.
Brown Act compliance.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, well, is there anything that you want to review with us before we get started on?
Not really. I think we can just jump into, and then there's a memo. What I would suggest as a point of order is the next 12 through 17 items.
Yeah,
I prepared a single memo for that, and we should just go item by item. And then you guys can make a formal vote as to whether to, dissolve or keep a committee.
right.
Let's do it.
Okay, so items 12 through 17 are all worded the same. Board to consider dissolution of, and then the various committees are listed. So let's just take them in order. Item 12 is Volunteer Resource Recovery Committee. Do you have recommendations you want to make?
Yes,
Chris?
and then each, in the memo, I basically put the recommendations there. So staff recommends dissolution. The reason for this is really that committee right now. I mean, I think it started as a volunteer committee. What it has evolved into is basically a staff committee, which is effectively not just our staff, but also the fire district staff. And we discuss sensitive employee matters. It would be totally inappropriate for it to be a volunteer committee, and it's not what it is.
Yeah.
So I'd say to dissolve that.
Dissolve it.
Just,
As a volunteer committee.
just
As a committee.
for your information, having been a person who was on that committee from the outset till we had COVID, shut everything down. Since COVID, we haven't met. I mean, we used to meet monthly, but we haven't met since COVID shut down. So seems like no point in having a committee
That's right.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
Because now it's just with the staff. and
Just
it's
became a staff,
operation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, fine.
I think the committee was formed mostly just to sort of get it started and create a structure.
Uh-huh.
And now it's just become like a function of the VPUG.
Okay.
Okay, can I get a motion
I
then?
make a motion to
So you move to dissolve that
dissolve
committee?
that committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Grace seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, 4-0. Okay, the next one is the permit parking plan committee.
I make a motion to dissolve that committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 0.
And just one point, to reiterate, that committee in terms of best practice on how you guys form committees in the future. That's really an ad hoc committee. It had an express mission. It completed that mission. It needs to dissolve, like actually to be compliant with
Yes.
the Brown Act.
Yeah,
Okay.
good point. All right, the next one is the
Building that.
Building Ad Hoc Committee. What do you think about that?
I recommend we continue on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
is
think
the
so
staff
too.
recommendation as well.
Yes,
And actually that committee's work is about to pick back up, so
yeah, no, that's a project that it's gonna be ongoing for a while.
Gonna be loaded.
But
Yes.
not done. Okay, so we'll keep that one in place. Next one is the item 15, the Canyon Road Ad Hoc Committee. Staff leans towards dissolving the committee, but notes that retention is an option if the board prefers, well, which is always true. Yeah, that's a hard one because it's a project that is singular in its definition.
yeah, which is why, I mean, I think the ad hoc committee formed. I think I talked about this in the context of when we discussed item 11 last time and went into a little more detail there. I personally feel like sometimes we form committees with the intention to move them forward, but the fact is that as an ad hoc committee, then and putting 2 board members on it, it's not like you don't have to have public meetings, they don't need to be agendized and all of that. But I don't know that having 2 directors has necessarily makes it more efficient. It just means I need to include more people in a meeting when we, so it's I'd say those kinds of committees are fine if it's sort of like, hey, we want to keep a finger on the pulse of Canyon Road, but it's not like we need to be at every meeting. It just allows me to keep those 2 members apprised and invite them to meetings, but not necessarily slow the process down. Anyway.
Can I ask, so, yeah, in terms, I should stand back and ask around the operations. So these committees, let's say you and I, example, we've been on the building committee, right? We did out of our own due diligence, like having an agenda, keeping notes, keeping a timeline of schedule. But we're not I mean, and Jennifer at that time was general manager. She wasn't attending those meetings, right? So we're not obligated to be capturing these in notes, even though there are 2 of us.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the ad hoc nature of it.
Okay.
Because basically the ad hoc is like, hey, in order, I mean, as an example, a better example, because this is Canyon Road, I think is veering into, oh, well, should this actually be an ad hoc committee? Should it be compliant with the Brown Act or whatever? I mean, not compliant with the Brown Act, but subject to the Brown Act. So, effectively, often you'd form an ad hoc committee, hey, you guys are gonna work on developing a general manager's evaluation. You don't wanna be in a position where you're gonna, all 5 of you have to do that. Let's form an ad hoc committee, we'll assign Kirsten and Jack to go develop that document, they can come back to us, they can just do it on their own. Okay, and it has an express mission, which is to develop this document. It comes back, you basically you form and dissolve the committee. This one is a little bit more like, okay, it's in this little bit of a gray zone, which is effectively, this is an ongoing project. It's maybe helpful in the same way to assign 2 directors to this, but obviously they're not going to lead this project. I, as a general manager, I'm going to really lead the project. So that is more like an ad hoc committee. So we're kept apprised of this project that we really care about, but we don't want to necessarily make it very cumbersome and have it be subject to the Brown Act and have published meetings, because it's really meetings that are going to be with an engineer that shouldn't be, whatever. So it's complicated, but I just say that, the ad hoc nature means that it's an express mission. It needs to be like a very specific thing. You can't be like finances, it needs to be really like directed as a specific project or task or something like that. And it really forms and dissolves once that task is accomplished. And then if it meets that criteria, then it's not subject to the Brown Act. Like you're saying, obviously good practices, take notes, continue to be transparent with the public, all of that, like the Brown Act requires. But it doesn't mean I have to notice a meeting 72 hours in advance and it's actually, the open to the public to join those meetings.
Sorry, I see your hand raised, but I just want
No,
to
go right ahead.
carry the back of
Yeah.
why I'm asking this, because we have been in a position in the past where I don't know if it was a legal request or a suit, but a lawyer was saying, I want to see every single meeting that you guys had. I want notes from every single meeting.
Oh.
And luckily, as I said, we were super organized. They could pull up every calendar invite that we had on our schedule, every person who attended that meeting, whether it was in person or Zoom, and the notes and the agendas that we had. And we were able to upload that, and we never heard anything more.
Yeah.
That is really time consuming. What
Yeah.
that person did to put us through that effort was really time consuming. Luckily, it was all there, and all I had to do was put it in a Dropbox. But I'm asking, should we be prepared for that as we sign up for these committees moving forward?
So that was basically a Public Records Act request, which is regardless of whether something was like a Brown Act or not. Anytime if people make Public Records Act requests of us all the time, and it just so happened that was a Public Records Act request that related to what was going to happen with this building, right? So then that's why, we have an ad hoc committee that's a building committee, so we had to produce all of those documents. To be quite honest, if we hadn't taken diligent notes, then there would be nothing to provide.
Okay.
So it's, the kind of Brown Act, the subject of being subject to the Brown Act means that you have to take minutes, means that you have to publish those minutes, means that you have to do all of that. Anything that is ad hoc or any work that we do is always subject to a Public Records Act request.
Sure.
And that means that then we would have to peruse any notes we have on it. But really, the ad hoc nature of the committee doesn't mean that you have to take, obviously I'm not telling you not to do this, but your notes or whatever you want to do, that's really up to you. It's just as soon as you make and produce those notes, they become basically public record.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. No, important discussion. I guess I'm wondering if there's some structure that exists or that we could create that isn't an ad hoc committee. Canyon Road, for instance, it's ongoing. We're concerned about it. We don't want it to get lost. However, it's subject to all of these outside regulatory things that are making it take flipping forever. Like we've been talking about that for so long. I feel so sorry for those people. Anyway, is there some way that we can just put a pin in it and have it be part of the manager's report, like update on Canyon Road, rather than having it be, it's ad hoc in the sense that it's time limited, like when they get on the sewer, we will not talk about it anymore. But it's
That would be the end of it, wouldn't it?
so long.
But maybe to your point, the committee has already served their purpose and now it's within, now it's
Maybe.
filed.
So you and Kevin?
It
What do you
has
think
been.
about this, Kevin, about having an ad hoc committee or not?
For that.
For Canyon Road, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a little bit on the fence. Selfishly, I have enjoyed being on that committee and learning about that and feeling like I'm trying to help the people on Canyon Road, but it's also been a very frustrating, like Grace says, long project full of regulations and twists and turns. And it seems like it's sort of it's part of a bigger project now with the OPC grant, so which may even slow things down further. So yeah, I don't know whether it's appropriate for me to be on this committee. It seems like it's not an ad hoc committee any longer. It's something that staff is working on, and they're sort of taking it. So I guess I don't know if that answered your question, but for me, the bigger picture is, why do we form these committees? Why do we even have standing committees? I know they've been around for decades, I would imagine, the sort of 5 standing committees. And what is the role of them? What's my role on the operations committee? We'll get to that one next, I think, or in a couple. But those are the kind of bigger picture questions that I have that I'm glad that Georgia brought this to our attention. So to try to answer your question, I'm sort of fine either way. I enjoyed being on the ad hoc committee for Canyon Road, but it seems like it's a more complicated and time, very lengthy project that doesn't seem like an ad hoc committee any longer.
Yeah.
If we don't have anybody volunteering, then we don't really have a.
Well, let me find out. What do you think, Andrew?
I'm kind of in a similar place as Kevin. I'm not sure it needs to be an ad hoc committee. We also save the district some money for us attending meetings.
Oh,
We eliminate some of these committees.
I just think that there needs to be some somewhat formal structure to have it stay on the agendas or in our consciousness, because particularly with Canyon Road, people have come periodically and said, are you guys, have you forgotten about us? And in fact, everybody's been working hard behind the scenes, or it's off in some committee in Sacramento. But I think that one thing that the ad hoc committee structure does is it shows up on the agenda and people know that we are still considering it, we are still working on it, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure it needs to be an ad hoc committee, but I'd like it to be something.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point in terms of just the resource recovery discussion too, right? It's like to have resource recovery volunteer committee was actually, I mean, and probably we just morphed that volunteer committee into what I thought it was, which was basically our work related to resource recovery.
Yeah.
And this was our opportunity for Belle to give an update on what's going on down there. Hey, you have a committee report from resource
Right.
recovery. Blah, blah, blah.
Precisely.
So there is a value in having this. I think I would almost say that those are like working groups or something like that. So like to be like that they're on the staff to effectively report on, hey, what's going on with resource recovery? What's going on with Canyon Road? I don't know. I mean, part of it too is like, you know, wanting to kind of just the aesthetics of our agenda, shorten our agenda a little bit, where we just have these things there to remind us, which is good.
Yeah.
But is there some other formal way for me to basically be reminded and then be like, okay, I'm going to tell you about resource recovery. I'm going to tell you about Canyon Road. I don't know. I think the other thing is that having them there as basically a like the way that I do it right now is like, okay, I bold them so people know, hey, this thing is either gonna be reported on or it's not gonna be reported on, so that it really is clear, ideally, to the public, like, hey, we haven't lost sight of this, but this is not up for discussion.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know what the best way to do it is.
I don't like the idea of doing things for quote unquote optics, because I think it's annoying.
Yeah.
But I do want to make sure, in terms of being transparent with the public, that we have not forgotten about this. You know, there may not be anything that's happened in the last month, but we are still concerned and moving, you know.
I think it's more of a staff project, like you got 100 of them, but one of them is Canyon Road. In my mind, the committee concept applies more to a project like the parking plan committee, because that was a big problem that the town had to address, and it was going to require a series of efforts and an end to it or something.
And important to have
That's
public
committee
input,
work,
yeah.
Whereas Canyon Road is a nuts and bolts project that requires permits and consultations and engineering
And financial. I mean, I'd say that the biggest piece to that that's really kind of thwarted it is a financial concern.
But it seems like it's under your umbrella as the general manager.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And so,
And I think about the nature of those meetings. I mean, what I would say is if it got to the point where we really need to engage the community members impacted by that, like it gets to that phase again, and it's like, you know what, it'd be really helpful to have a couple of board members on here so that we can engage this, this community regarding the issues here. But when I look at the nature of the meetings that I've had, it's really like, oh, we're meeting with the engineer. Why do I mean, it's very helpful and nice to have those two board members there, but that doesn't seem necessary. And it seems like very much the purview of the people that are the paid staff should be doing this. This shouldn't be on the volunteers, or effective volunteers.
So to
Yeah.
keep
take
that
that on.
There's Somebody with their hand up, just. pointing that
I
out.
think that's.
Is it all?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so to keep the optics of this communicated to the people living there, is it something that you could be reporting quarterly on then?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that it really happens is when there's something to report on it,
Yeah.
I bring it forward, right?
But I think they were saying, hey, we haven't heard anything
Mhm.
in a year, so. I'm just wondering, could we be proactive by saying, okay, we're gonna ask the manager to report on it quarterly? So we know it's, a set agenda, they can know to look for the updated quarterly report. There's nothing that's happened, or we met with an engineer, it's gonna be another 6 months or a year, I mean. I do think there is something about these committees, that the community is aware that we have an invested interest and we're keeping something going besides what the general manager and
Yeah.
staff are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily, I think without involving them more and giving them a heads up,
Yeah,
they could be a little bit like, why did you dissolve this committee? You know what I mean? Does that mean that you're not continuing with it? So
Yeah,
I would say at some level, essentially giving me like that's more what I would be looking for is
Yeah.
like, fine, let's keep this committee, but with the understanding, like this is similar to the bike path committee, which was
Mhm.
very helpful to have that committee. But it was also a kind of an understanding, like I would loop Jack and Kevin in, invite them to a meeting. I'm not scheduling that meeting around, their schedule. So
Right.
it's like, it's a way for us to communicate to the public, like you guys are saying, hey, this project is still very important to
Yeah.
us, but it doesn't necessarily mean, and we've essentially formed a committee to sort of, like for optics, to let the public know how important it is to us to ensure that we continue to report on this and don't lose sight of it. However, the kind of this particular ad hoc committee is like, I'm not leaning on Andrew and Kevin to do the work.
right,
I am not also slowing the
Yeah.
work down because I need to include them at a meeting with an engineer.
exactly.
Yeah.
We're not really a working board.
All right, so,
Well, I'm on any three of these following committees. I'm really happy to, transfer it over to a quarterly
Yeah.
report from the general
So I
manager.
mean, I guess I would say maybe I'll modify my recommendation here, which is let's keep it, but and not that there's anything to report out or action to be taken,
Yeah.
but just that, there's an understanding that when board members have been assigned to this type of committee, there's not a huge responsibility on their shoulders, and there's also not a huge responsibility for me to essentially ensure that they're at every meeting.
right, good,
Yeah,
all right,
I think
so do
that's
you
good.
feel comfortable with that then?
I do.
Yeah, all right,
I like it.
Kevin, that sound okay? Okay, thumb up. All right, let's go on to the next one. Item 16 is the bike path ad hoc committee. Staff recommendation is for dissolution.
Yeah, I would say for the same reason I just laid out for Canyon Road, this is probably best to keep it on there. And just continue to apprise the two board members as I've been doing, involve you. I mean, it also essentially similarly imparts to the public, hey, we're not dissolving this committee because its work is done.
Okay, so we're gonna actually continue it, not dissolve it.
Yeah.
Okay, item 17, operations committee, which is not an ad hoc committee, but a standing committee.
Yeah.
And your note is the recommendation, consider dissolution or renaming.
Yeah. So this is a committee that I find very confusing. I don't think has met since I joined or been general manager. I think its intention was to really be involved with CIP projects and ensure that the board was aware. As we'll see at the end of the meeting, the finance committee just had a CIP meeting. We talked about the projects, at the sort of level of detail that I think is appropriate for the board to get involved, honestly. Unless it's like, let's form an ad hoc committee for the building committee because it would be so helpful to have board members really work on this with me, or for the Canyon Road, as we just spoke of. where things essentially pop out of, you know, our CIP work and have raised to a level that we form an ad hoc committee. Personally, I find the operations committee, I don't think it's appropriate for board members to really be involved with the operations, like day-to-day operations of the district. So I'm not quite sure what the,
I'll tell you how it came about.
okay,
It didn't seem appropriate for board members to be actively involved in the operations of the district. But one or more directors during my time on this board have taken, let's say, a more hands-on approach
okay,
in trying to deal with some of the issues affecting the operations of the district. And there was a concern that the line was starting to get crossed between the function of a board member and getting too involved in what the staff is supposed to be doing.
uh-huh,
And so an operations committee was created to give board members an opportunity to get as much involved as they could in things that had to do with the operations of the district without getting too hands-on. I'm trying to be as circumspect as I
Fine job.
can. Thank you.
Very good.
But the idea being, let the staff do the job and run the district. And if you have some ideas, convey them to the staff, but don't start getting, in the hole that's been dug or et cetera, et cetera. And so the operations committee was sort of an effort to give board members an opportunity to have some involvement in the operations, short of getting a little too officious. That's as much as I'm going to say on it.
Well, and I think that there was some very specific interest and also knowledge that certain board members had that they wanted to pursue and kind of bring into the operations, like, yes. And that was, they were sort of like, okay, go find out a whole lot about this and see how much it would cost and bring it back to us. So it was kind of a way for them to do
Yeah.
that.
but
But I
yeah,
don't think we
Grace,
need-
I would almost say that that's appropriate for you to form an ad hoc committee. Let's say somebody's very interested in
100%.
you
I'm not arguing for it.
yeah, reforming the bridge or whatever, or whatever it was, I don't, what,
Different.
let's say it's asphalt on the roads,
Mhm.
okay? Somebody's really championing that. I think it should be the board that says, okay, Kevin, you're really interested in asphalt. Why don't you form an ad hoc committee or go to do this on your own or whatever? But it's coming from the board directed to, yes, we approve your involvement, supported by the staff. Again, to me, operations committee almost, I appreciate that it's kind of trying to provide guardrails, but to me, on the surface of it, it almost does the opposite of that, where it conveys to the public and the staff, hey, the board is involved in the operations. Who are the committee members on there? How are they involved in the operations? Like, I don't really know, but it's confusing to me. And also that, like I said, that committee's never met.
That's right.
So that's kind of why I'm suggesting. I think
Let's dissolve it.
Okay.
Well, I just have one question. So we're all appointed to two committees, and operations committee is one of the two, or one
of
the
standing.
standing. So what's the policy around Kevin and I, who will then be like committee lists, or only with one committee? Is that going to affect?
Yeah, I think that the work really, I don't think that there's any there's no policy or anything like that says each member needs to be on two committees.
That's right.
I'd say that, like you guys have talked about before, there's such disparity in the amount of work that you have to do on any one committee, and it's also very dynamic. So even just to be assigned to one committee doesn't
Cool.
necessarily.
Well, you are on two committees. You're on the finance committee and you're on the building ad hoc.
And operations and Canyon Road.
That's the
Just taking away all my committees.
There goes all that meeting money. Your budget, this is the budget.
Too much.
It's my own financial decision. As a committee member. All right,
All right,
thanks.
let's dissolve it.
Let's
All right, so can we get a motion then to dissolve the operations committee?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you all.
All right.
Okay.
Signatures.
That and item 18, there's nothing, and now we get on to discussion items, item 19, managers update.
Yay, okay.
Yay.
Oh, right, can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, just quickly in terms of our production and consumption, so in November, average was 129 gallons per day on the production side. This was down from 138 gallons per day in October. Consumption, similarly was down to 124. Sorry, down to 124 from 139 in October. The average use per connection, looking at the last this November versus the last 2 Novembers. This is a general trend we've been seeing now where it's just slightly off, lower than last year. This is just the total supply and demand, which is basically, production and consumption. Then this is something that we've seen now, or we were seeing. This one's great. So yeah. So the orange bar here, this is basically the staggered use is slightly less. It had it's pretty comparable to what's going on in the previous year. And so that's just, again, letting people know what they're using beyond the meter. Historic rainfall, actually, this is a little complicated. I'm not gonna go into this. I'm gonna look at just this one, which is basically our cumulative rainfall from July through the end of November. This is probably gonna look worse. This last month has been really dry, as you guys been very nice out here, but it's been cold, very dry. Especially considering that that's usually a very wet month, productive month. But even within that last, just up to about the end of November, but we were already kind of looking like we were getting less rain than the last couple of years.
We had no rainfall in December until last night.
Yeah, exactly. So this picture is, I think, gonna be revealing next month. And unless we play catch up this next week.
Might be
it
the
sounds like
next 5 days, yeah.
Yeah, for the next 10 days, I think.
Or
it's
whatever it was, right?
Mm.
Big time.
It's gonna be warm, but it's gonna be.
Okay, this is what's going on here. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Well, what's that? Yeah, needs a big bite.
Yeah.
That's what things looked like last November. Sorry. And this is what they look like today. So just as a comparison, things look pretty similar.
Yeah.
Alright, this is what the reservoirs look like, so pretty similar to what I showed you last month. The Zola is not blooming yet. Moving on to some operations updates. So basically, I think I told you guys about this, but we purchased this vinyl dam that's fillable with water that we're putting in front of the radial gate. We just started testing it out. We're definitely more to be learned from, repositioning it. The idea here was that this thing was only $300, and it kind of gives us a sense of whether something like this would work, but there are more expensive custom options for this type of dam. Right now, I'd say, you can tell because of the other tarping, it's not perfect. The idea was really to get rid of these tarps and have something kind of fulfilling a similar, more reliable and less yucky looking. I really hate these tarps. I mean, they're gross. Those tarps are gross anyway. They degrade. So this vinyl is much thicker and nicer looking. But it's obviously a work in progress. Leaks have really not been super active this last month, which is great. We just had that the last time I talked to you guys about the repair of Wharf that got paved, along with the other 31 Wharf Road work that I was telling you guys about. There's been a small leak on Tulip that was repaired. There's a leak currently on Ocean that is being attended to. And Walnut that are kind of smaller leaks, but we're figuring out exactly what our plan of action is going to be there. And there's a couple of small leaks on Hawthorne.
Where on Hawthorne?
I'm not exactly sure.
No. Towards Poplar or towards the other end of the mesa, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just was
Sorry.
2 weeks on Hawthorne. I haven't. Yeah.
That's good.
Usually, if they're really small, like what happens is if there's a larger leak, the guys will take pictures, put them in there, and then I'll bring those over. Right now, I mean, it's really nice. Like one of the exercises I go through in preparing this is kind of going through that Rolodex. And if it's like, a million different leaks, I'm like, oh, I'm downloading like 20 pictures to show you guys. I couldn't find any pictures, which is like
Good.
really
Good.
nice. But it means that, I'm kind of less informed if it's a tiny little leak. Just wanted to say one thing that we dealt with recently was basically a lot of water on Canyon. And this is the time of year where even though it has been dry, things are starting to saturate and there's more kind of seasonal springs popping up. And that turned out just to be seasonal spring. It was quite a lot of water, but it was not a leak. But just reminding the public to always let us know, even regardless of whether you think it's a spring or not. Usually we're kind of familiar with really wet spots and we'll know, hey, but it's always nice to be able to go and investigate what the public reports to us. As far as the wells project, those are moving forward, especially obviously the resource recovery project. This is just an aerial view of the resource recovery site with the well there, where we're starting to do some of the preparation that we need to do around the wellhead there in terms of securing it and improving the berm, all of these things that the Division of Drinking Water said we needed to do in order to incorporate this source into our public system. And then I'll be having a meeting with BCLT and Habitat on Friday. Again, some of that, as I've reported, that project is really, we've done as much as we can, but basically we're beholden to their schedule. And so hopefully I'll have some good updates next meeting once I learn more about where their schedule is. Just briefly on the Ocean Protection Council grant, this is the feasibility wastewater study that Stinson is leading. That continues to move forward. We basically are, they are assessing our collection system and our treatment system. That is, in the works. Moving from to the roads. Just to report that the asphalt pile that was out here that was available for the public, that's basically gone. But in the interim, in dwindling that pile, we basically provided asphalt to all of the private, customers that requested it. Our loading and unloading to those project sites has worked really well. It hasn't been too much work on us, and I think it's been really appreciated by the public. And then this kind of more formal approach to work with the fire district to really repair and lay the grinds down on the quote unquote emergency access roads that the fire district has delineated as seen in this map here. That has gone well. It's pretty much done. There's just a few piles that Don has that he's needs to spread out. And I'll report to you, basically, I mean, this was kind of an idea of a pilot, sort of like, we sort of had a kind of upper limit, don't pass this, but once we deal with the finances of all of that, I'll report back to the board on what that all looked like and what this, kind of comprehensive approach to this can look like going forward. Obviously, a huge part of this is dependent on road projects that are being undertaken, and when people essentially offer asphalt to us, and asphalt grinds to us. So just, now that I'm more aware of that, I'm like, just want to continue to communicate with highway patrol and county and individuals, contractors around these types of roads projects. But I just, if the board is aware of any such projects, just continue to send asphalt our way. Our hope is to, I don't know if you guys have seen some of this, but basically to really modify this side of the property so that it can accommodate more materials. So the idea, that's kind of why we started a second pile. The idea was to move the chips and kind of create a groundwork for somebody to be able to drive, collect chips, and then the portion closer to the road to put asphalt there, and still be able to use the parking lot.
The roads project has been such a success, I think. They've never looked as good since I've lived here, and I've walked them a lot. I mean, it's just some of those roads that are just so swampy, I think are high enough and crowned properly, so that I think that's going to be so good for the public.
Okay, yeah, and another thing, I mean, right now we're really geared toward directing staff time towards the resource recovery the well projects. But as those start to hopefully when they have a little more time, the other portion of this roads project is really dealing with the ditches and improving some of the drainage.
Right.
And so that would be kind of like the other side of things. This is just a quick update, a governance update. Last month, you guys voted to increase directors' pay. That was really just me bringing that forward in the form of a memo. And I was like saying different options there. And once you guys had like quote unquote voted on that, I was like, oh, you know what? I need to make sure I'm modifying whatever the resolution is or whatever where it stipulates what director pay is. And basically when we started to sleuth into this, we realized, oh, there is no director pay resolution, which ultimately there really should be. And so that just brought it to our attention. We kind of figured this out a little bit too late for me to bring that forward, that resolution tonight. But the plan is that we'll bring that forward in January, but it will effectively, I mean, obviously you guys can amend it then, but I'm going to try to develop a resolution based on the discussion we already had that essentially says $250, $100 for additional meetings. RRP, resource recovery project, the site has been had unexpected closures this last week due to an employee absence. And we expect to get back to kind of normal hours, but I just wanted to alert the public that right now we're looking at Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday open, and closed Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday. But also, alert the public. Oh, sorry.
That would be Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay, sorry. Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Maybe I'll update that on the before we upload this to yes. What do they call it? Like R or
TH, I think. Right.
Yeah.
But and we could be open Wednesday. It's just kind of fluid at the moment. We're just short staffed, and so I just want and Georgia and I want the public to know that there could be closures unexpectedly, but hopefully we'll get back to regular soon.
Yep. And but also rain is expected, so that can obviously close the site independent of a schedule.
Yes.
I just wanted to bring this to your attention. We talked about this about a year ago. This is effectively the new lead copper inventory reporting like regulation. This is coming from the EPA. So these are federal laws that we're stipulating. I mean, some of this was after Michigan. Flint. Yes, like all of that impact. So basically it was EPA rules that emerged from all of that, and to better inventory, potential lead contamination. So we sent out these letters last year. We have to do that again this year to inform people from our standpoint, or I mean, on our particular system, it's really these quote unquote unknown. We don't have any known lead in the system, but it's basically these galvanized connections on the service line that are effectively unknown in nature and can actually just act as a sink for lead, unknown lead in the system. So they basically act, can basically concentrate lead that would be in the system that would be unknown. But anyway, it's kind of a scary letter to receive, I feel like. And so one of the things that we would like to do is basically offer testing of folks' water in their home to just reassure them, hey, you're getting this letter. And again, I've talked about this before when I brought this to your guys' attention last year. But basically the issue here is that you have a service line, you have a main, you have a service line that goes and delivers water to the home. That service line is basically divided into kind of a public section of it, which is before the meter, and a private section of it, which is after the meter. Okay. And so what we do is basically look in the meter box and look and see what the constituents look like, the materials. And sometimes you can tell that everything's copper and then it's good. But sometimes when you have these galvanized materials, then basically you need to alert that customer and send out this letter and let them know. So some of this is basically, obviously, if that stuff is on our end, this EPA regulation is like, okay, within the next 10 years, it's not really well laid out yet, but it's like, we will ultimately have to change that end. It's unclear whether we will also have to change the private service line too, because there's some talk of that. But I think the issue there is like, well, where does the private service line end, right? It's very obvious and well defined. Hey, the public service line is from the main to the meter. Well, from the meter to the home, you know exactly where that is. Let's say you have multiple lines, like it's just, you can now obviously get into this whole conundrum of well, what are we exactly responsible for? So what this letter is intended to do is to reassure people we don't know of any lead in our system. We can test your water if you would like us to do so. Please understand that that's not a regulatory mandate for us to do this, but it's just sort of a courtesy.
Good faith.
Yeah, good faith. And the other thing is basically, if this is on your private side, we really encourage you to just swap it out, change it out, just give yourself that peace of mind. If it's on our side, we talked about this at our CIP meeting, is folding in those, changing out that so that the materials are not gonna trigger this whole process. There's only like 20, I don't know, how many is it, Belle? 25 or something that are
Yeah.
some form of this, either unknown materials on our side, unknown materials on their side, or unknown materials on both. So basically, depending on that category, you get like effectively a form letter from us. Hey, you have unknown materials on your side.
Wouldn't our policy just be, sorry, go ahead,
No, go ahead.
to, we are servicing up to the meter and then anything from the meter on is on your side, whether it's on your property or
Yeah.
not?
Yes,
Okay,
that is our policy.
yeah,
What is happening is this regulatory framework coming down from EPA is basically saying, hey, public utility, maybe you're gonna even have to address problematic lines beyond the meter. Again, it's like a kind of shifting regulatory landscape, but I think from the standpoint of this is some of this like, and it's probably informed by actually the disasters that people were dealing with. I think the situation in Flint was exactly what I was describing, where it was like the public's part of it was actually fine, but there were unknown materials that were then coming back into the system and then like concentrating, like I was saying, you know, so it's just like we can obviously the more due diligence the public system takes on, so that's kind of what EPA is pushing for, is like they just want safe water, right? So they're kind of pushing the public utility to get more and more involved in just like removing anything that they know is dangerous. But again, like you're saying, that's really abutting against like, well, wait a second, like we don't actually have, you know, where does this stop? And obviously you could have lead pipes in the person's home, right? Is it then the public utility district's, you know, responsibility to change those out? Obviously not, but it just is kind of getting into this nebulous territory.
I just wanted to say one thing is that we don't necessarily have galvanized pipe, we just have unknown. So it's not um they don't know if it is or isn't, and so it's considered unknown as opposed to galvanized. Just FYI.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, IT upgrades. We basically have very old computers. And we weren't even able to update them with Windows 11, which is something that yes, the world is doing right now. So we had to purchase new computers. So you'll see that coming in our costs. We have 68 participants in our online billing system. Just continue to encourage the public to sign up. And then this is basically a update from me via the county. So I just wanted to let you or the public know what I know about the repair at the seawall at 95 Wharf Road, or near 95 Wharf. So construction schedule information. Exact dates are yet to be determined, but we meaning the county, anticipate starting in late November. This is basically the county message that was fed to me that I'm now feeding to the public as
in December,
what's that?
now in December.
Yes.
Have you gotten the letter yet?
No, a follow-up letter. Surprise, surprise, I have not. A follow-up letter will establish the start date and will be issued at least 7 days in advance of the work. The work is expected to be Monday through Friday with a project duration of 3 weeks. Traffic impact: Wharf Road will be closed at 95 Wharf Road 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. This will allow morning, midday, and evening access to all properties beyond 95 Wharf. To facilitate construction traffic, anticipate 5-minute delays on Wharf Road 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the duration of the project. Emergency vehicles will have access at all times, including access through road closures.
I think I did get a letter.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your address?
Well, I'm at 87, but and 93. So I'm already impacted by
Okay.
cones at my so yes, I did. I'm happy to take a photo and send it to you.
Okay.
So you have it.
Great. Yeah. I mean, basically, it's possible that when I asked the county, hey, I'd like to update
Yeah.
the community, they gave me that forms letter that was actually
Yeah, it
being
didn't say
sent.
anything specific about a date. It just
Okay.
was.
And then this just dovetails with the public comment that happened at the beginning of this meeting. Obviously, we're still aware that there's garbage issues at both Warren and Brighton. We continue to work on that. We ask for patience, because it's now there's like multiple agencies that are really involved in this. And so it's just going to be a pretty slow process to effectively, as an example, get permission from Department of Public Works to put a garbage, in
But
the
that one's gone.
This one, yeah, this is an
Yeah.
old photo.
Okay.
This is basically
Yeah,
a picture of,
but somebody's put new ones back.
oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. But
It's
they,
very dynamic down there.
yes,
Yeah.
it's not enclosed.
Okay, and that is it.
I just had a great report. Thank you. One other thing, maybe I should have said during the community expression or something, but, Wharf Road, BCLT had their neighbor construction kickoff meeting, and I just have to say that it was really Aaron, who's gonna be the owner's rep. For Habitat, was very impressive, came very well organized. It's gonna have a major impact to downtown and parking. For all of us beyond just the Wharf Road, community neighbors, so, I should have mentioned that earlier, but. I think it was a fairly good turnout, a few neighbors, good questions, and they are kicking off in January,
Oh,
Oh,
if you did not know that.
no.
we'll find out Friday.
Yeah.
But,
All right.
By
What's,
Friday.
what's cooking?
well, I'm having my meeting with Habitat
Oh, okay.
and BCLT on Friday.
Getting going. All right. Okay, I'm gonna keep going on the agenda. Got- Number 20 has none. Are we doing anything about these committee items that we've already?
No, they've already been covered. I was just letting people know that, hey, this item is being discussed.
Okay.
So,
Going to standing committee updates, you have put bold on finance committee,
that's just in the form of the minutes that will happen at the end of the meeting.
okay, and operations, we've already talked about. And that takes us to approval of minutes.
Yep. I still move.
Regular
I already read them.
meeting of November 19th,
Yep,
motion to approve them.
I do.
Second.
You second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Finance committee meeting, for the 5-year CIP, that meeting was on December the 12th.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There a motion to approve those, minutes?
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0.
And for just anybody who didn't attend that meeting, which is basically everybody, there is a.
Well,
except
two
for-
of us.
Yes, there is a link, we recorded that meeting, if anyone cares to see that, it's a link, and there's also a slide deck that I prepared, both of them, are at the top of the meeting.
Well, we did
minutes.
have one community member,
Oh, yes.
right?
Did we?
Yeah.
All right,
I
I'll
thought he
take,
came at the end.
Oh,
Who's
okay.
He was coming in for another reason, wasn't he?
Oh, I
Who
thought he
pays
was
the bill?
coming.
Yeah.
so it's busy.
We stopped for the meeting. What good meeting.
All right, I'm going on to approval of warrants, item 33.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Okay, November 1st through 30th. Can I get a motion to, any questions or comments about the warrants before we have a motion? No, Kevin shakes his head, no.
Looking at you, Kev.
All right. Is there a motion then to approve the warrants?
I so move.
Second, somebody.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0.
Woo.
Materials to be signed, we already have some.
Yeah, you guys do
Yes,
super.
Yes,
Thank
some
you.
signed.
Thank you.
Future agenda items, the only one was we talked about continuing the one about the BEP and the application to the county.
Yep.
Next meeting date, January the 21st, huh?
Oh,
Is that right?
I'm away.
You're not here?
Nope.
All right.
I'm gonna try to be here. I'm having
Let me just move.
hip replacement surgery on the 12th.
You are?
Oh.
So
Wow.
Hip replacement
Mhm.
surgery.
So that's only a week
there'll
before.
be so much more hip.
You're so good already. That's just gonna be.
Yeah, we feel good about you, and you're not gonna be here for sure?
I'm flying out on the 20th till the 30th.
So, what should we do if we only have 3? One of the reasons that I suggested we kick over that subject on the trees to January, so we'd have a
A full board.
full board, and it sounds like we might have a minimum board, actually. But I guess we have to have their meeting.
28.
I still
You
won't
wanna-
be here.
To give us an update.
Oh, I'll be fine by then, yeah.
You will, all right, Andrew feels like he'll be ready to come, good. All right,
Kevin,
we'll have
when are
to
you
work.
back coming?
Sorry,
Where will you be?
Colin.
Where?
I'll be back for the meeting.
Um,
I'll be there.
Going back.
I'm so sorry, are we suggesting moving the meeting?
No. No, we'll stay with
I
the
think
20.
if Andrew has had hip surgery, then that might be you might be able to attend via Zoom if you couldn't
I think
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
in
I think
person.
so too.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you definitely can attend via Zoom, it's just.
In terms of voting.
Voting, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
be a voting member.
Right.
You gonna try to attend from Scotland?
No, because it's gonna be like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m.
About the trade?
All
right, that's fine.
I might try, but I
right.
think I can at least weigh in and give my comments.
All right, well, let's just stay with the 21st of January.
Yeah.
Okay, and with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Nice job.
Nice meeting you.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
all.
Nice to see you, Kevin. Thanks,
Bye.
Bill.